I actually bought a mystery box off the deep web by u/Greavir. One of the hottest trends on YouTube right now is ordering these random mystery boxes from complete strangers on the deep web and opening them on camera. I don't know why I didn't realize a clear majority of these videos are fake and staged for their scare factor. But I didn't. I thought it was a great idea and hopped on the bandwagon to claim my YouTube stardom that I desperately longed for. For those who don't know a lot about the deep web, it's simply a part of the internet that isn't accessible from your basic Chrome, Firefox, or Explorer search engines. You must download the encryption program Tor and the Tor browser for starters. It's not illegal to access this part of the internet, but since it's anonymous, a great deal of illegal actions happens there, and the possibilities are endless. I grabbed my laptop that I've had since I graduated in 2011, and I downloaded the required programs. I prefer to use my laptop over my desktop in case of viruses and such, and my 7-year-old laptop is a little more disposable. I had a little Bitcoin phase a few years ago when it was blowing up, so I had a little saved already. It wasn't much, only 0.1 Bitcoin, which translates to roughly 632 USD, but it was enough for what I was looking for. After the downloads were finished, I opened the browser and started my journey at the Hidden Wiki website. They provide a lot of useful links to get you started on the deep web. I scrolled through the warnings and the gist of what it was, and I found the links that I was looking for. Almost forgot, I muttered to myself as I grabbed the duct tape from my desk drawer. I cut a tiny square piece off the end and placed it over my webcam. Call me paranoid, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. I clicked on the first link and waited what seemed like forever for the page to load. It was another very plain page with a list of popular websites that you could scroll through on the side. I continued my search through the web links until I found a page dedicated to mystery boxes. I wanted to find one around $500 so people knew that I meant business on my channel. These were relatively small, staying around the 0.0125 to 0.05 Bitcoin range. I was worried about being scammed. I decided to continue my search after a quick bathroom break. When I came back, I noticed my cursor was off to the side and was able to click on a link that must have matched the background color of the web page because I couldn't see it. I indulged in my curiosity and hit the link, and I was taken to a pitch black page with small white text near the top. I'm selling one random package to any brave enough to receive for only 0.12 Bitcoin or best offer. Only one, huh? I thought to myself. I'll shoot my shot. I hit the small payment button and I was asked how much I'd like to spend, and I entered 0.1 Bitcoin with fingers crossed. The payment went through without any hesitation, and I was instantly met with a chat box asking where I'd like my package sent. I know this wasn't a good idea, and I regret it to this day, but the other YouTube channels use their own address often, so I thought nothing of it, and I gave them my home address. I waited over a month for the box to come in, 36 days to be exact, and it arrived directly on my front porch, and was wrapped numerous times in red tape. I set my camera on a tripod and adjusted it to show me and the box on this small wooden table. I draped a sheet in the background so it looked a little more professional. I collect some gloves and scissors so I can bang the video out in one go. Hey everybody! Welcome to tonight's vlog. Boy, do I have a surprise for you. I continue with my monologue, mentioning how I got the box and how much I've paid. Without wasting further time, let's open this deep web mystery box. I grab the scissors and cut along the red tape, and I make sure my gloves are on tight, and I rip the box open. My brow furrows as I see just one book, and without saying a word, I take the book out of the box. I was pretty pissed. I spent over $600 on a book. Well, folks, looks like we got us a dud. These pages better be made of gold. The outside of the book was old and tattered, and it smelled of mildew and mold. I cracked the book open to the first page and glanced over the contents. It's an old photo album. Smells of old rot. Let's look at these pictures. I show the camera a view of the page's contents. It has 4 pictures on the first page, all labeled by days. The first picture said day 1, the second day 2, and so on. The pictures were taken with an old Polaroid camera, and these were pictures of airplanes, random suitcases, a couple of taxis, and some pretty shady motels. Looks like someone's old travel photos. I continue flipping through the pages. Every day was a different photo of nature or cars or trains. And day 18 held the oddest photo yet. It was just of a mask, handcuffs, a gag, and a bottle of some sort of drug it looked like. These people have one hell of a fetish. I try to keep the video interesting. I zoom into the picture with a camera so everyone can see it. Around day 32, things started getting weird. There was a picture of a house, but not just any house. It was the house that I grew up in, my parents' house. My hand covered my mouth as I gasped for air. How is this? I'm unable to form a sentence, and I'm at a loss of words. Day 33. I turn the page and see a man and a woman, handcuffed and gagged, and I immediately expel the contents of my stomach as I see my own mom's scared and crying face and my dad, face first in a pile of what looked like black tar. Day 34. This photo is taken inside what looks like a vehicle. I focus my gaze to the dashboard, where a small photo is barely visible. It's an old school photo of me. They're in my dad's truck. Day 35. Another house, but this one is much smaller. The photo is too blurry to make out the details, and my hands are trembling and all I can hear is my heartbeat pounding in my ears. I flip to the last page. I immediately throw the book to the ground and run to the window. I jiggle the hatch frantically and throw it open. Without hesitation, I jumped out and run to the neighbors. And as I'm running, I turn around for a brief second. And what I saw haunts me to this day. A tall, hooded figure stood in my room, looking at me through the window. He stood motionless, before lifting his hand and waving. I screamed for my neighbor, who hurried me inside and called the cops, and I sat and just cried. I cried out of fear for my life, and I cried for my parents. I cried because it was all my fault. My lack of common sense got my parents killed, and I will have to live with that forever. If you access the deep web, do not release any personal information, even if people on YouTube do it. Most of it's not real, and always check your boxes. It would have saved me a lot of trouble if I would have noticed the box I received had no tracking sticker on it. It was hand-delivered. Please stay away from the deep web. By you/the damaged. I had always been aware of the deep web. You hear the craziest, most fucked up stories from people who have the balls to explore it. Websites that involve human experimentation, hiring a hitman, and even watching people through their own security cameras. It's fucked up, but honestly, I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't just slightly interested. Now, just to point out, there was no malicious intent behind my exploration of the deep web. I was just curious to see if it was really as bad as people said it was. The first thing that I stumbled upon was a website extremely centered around death, which gave me a really uneasy feeling. So I didn't hang around that webpage very long. It takes quite a bit to freak me out, so it's safe to say that I was a little surprised that I couldn't even stomach the first website that I clicked on. But hey, it's not supposed to be all unicorns and rainbows, right? Next, I clicked a website that was dedicated to watching people through their security cameras. Most of the screens showed empty living rooms and patios. Some of them showed oddly filled rooms, like rooms that were packed with stuffed animals, and another that was eerily decorated with fucking Christmas lights and fake Santa Claus statues. Another screen showed a young woman doing yoga, and that one had a lot of views. I didn't watch that one very long. Something inside me felt ill and just wrong, like what I was doing was sickening. I shook my head, blinking away any more curiosity before I hovered my mouse over the tiny X to close the window. Right before I pressed the mouse, I saw a blue link under a black screen that said, "Proceed with caution." And I bit down on my back teeth, yelling internally to leave the page. Don't click the link, it's not worth it. It could be murder. Would that make me an accomplice? What if it was someone skinning an animal or some shit like that? But then again, what if it wasn't? I don't know what the hell propelled me to move my mouse away from the window, hovering it over the link instead. But that's where I ended up. My curiosity always got the best of me, and no matter how twisted my stomach felt, or how strong the feeling of dread was that lingered right over my head, I had to know. I really just had to know what the link led to, or I would go crazy until I finally figured it out. So I pressed my mouse down and watched the link turn purple. I felt my mouth go dry and watched as the screen slowly loaded. The page was just comprised of a large screen, like the security camera page, only it was just one. The room was concrete, it was dark, and there must have been a night vision camera or something, because everything had a weird blue-green tinge. But you could tell there was little to no light at all. There was a dark liquid on the floor in a medium-sized puddle. I told myself it was gasoline. Don't ask me why. Movement in the far right of the screen caught my attention, and I immediately perked in my desk chair, inching my face closer to the screen of my laptop. It looked like an arm, like someone's forearm. They were standing there, not really moving but subtly swaying, just enough to not look completely still. "Hey," I said, before shaking my head and slapping my mouth shut. "Stupid." Then the person walked, and they walked over towards the left of the screen. I felt my stomach knot, felt my throat tingle and tighten, bile rising in the back of my throat, and I knew my mouth was open, gaping, and my eyes were wide, face screwed up into an expression of pure disgust. It was a young woman. She looked like she couldn't be older than 25 or so. Long, dark, and dirty hair was in tangles, like she'd been pulling at it. Her legs were dragging, her other skinny leg doing most of the work as she limped weakly. Her head was down, looking at the floor, and the sound of her dragging her foot across the concrete echoed in my silent room. I didn't think it could get any worse. I was so fucking wrong. Suddenly, the woman raised her head, and it looked like it weighed a ton on her tiny body. I hadn't noticed it before, only able to barely make out her side profile. But now it was clear as day. She looked around, eyes watering with tears, and black makeup streaming down her face. Small strands of bloody thread were intertwined in her lips, messily tied, locking them together. Dark blood stained her chin, probably from where she tried desperately to open her mouth to scream, before realizing she couldn't. Her dainty fingers were stained as well, the same color as the puddle on the concrete. My whole body felt weak. My stomach was sick. I tried to tell myself it was fake, that it was all a big hoax, and my eyes scanned to the bottom left of the screen. 5,623. 5,623 people were watching. Unable to fight it any longer, I ran straight into the bathroom, puking my insides into the toilet bowl. Everything in me felt disgusting, wrong, twisted. And once I was finally done, I laid on the floor of the bathroom, letting the cool tiles try to soothe my burning body. My head was spinning. I kept repeating to myself over and over in my head that I shouldn't have clicked that link and that I should have left. I should have closed the fucking window and told my inner curiosity to go fuck itself. Instead, I was laying on the floor, the bathroom reeking of vomit, and my mind a complete mess over what the hell I was supposed to do. Should I get the link and send it to the police? Should I call them now? My first instinct was to copy and paste the link just in case, and then call the police and inform them of what was happening. Maybe they could trace the IP address or something. Maybe they would recognize the girl and know where to start looking. Maybe I could save her life. I'd feel really fucking dumb if this was all fake just to get viewers. But I wasn't about to gamble, not with what was at stake. I ignored the dizzy feeling flooding my head as I jumped up, grabbing the doorknob and twisting it a bit too harshly. When I flung the door open, my phone buzzed in my pocket, scaring the living shit out of me. I stopped mid-panic and picked it up with shaky hands, and I saw my girlfriend's name and immediately slid to answer. My voice was a complete wreck, and my eyes finding the screen where the girl shrunk down to the ground, and the sound of her cries bouncing around the room, making my body feel rigid. I had nothing left to throw up, but I still felt sick. "Madeline, you're not going to believe what I fucking saw." "What? Are you okay? Have you been crying?" "No, I'm not okay. I answered, averting my eyes from the screen. I know you said to stay away from the deep web, but are you kidding me? Her voice went from caring to mad in a split second. I told you to stay away from that place. You never listen to me. You never fucking do. There's a girl, I said weakly. She's trapped in some basement or something. Her mouth is like sewn shut. There's blood all over her face and hands, and I don't know what to do, Madeline. The woman's cries got louder, more desperate, but muffled. I'm so sorry. Close it out. Clear your history and never go back there again. I'm not kidding. But should I call? No. Her voice was stern now. You don't know if it's bullshit. It's probably staged to gain disgusting viewers, apparently like yourself. People do it all the time. That's why I said it'd be best if you just stayed away from there. You could get yourself in a lot of trouble. I didn't say anything, wordlessly walking over to the desk. My hand shook as I raised my mouse to the small X once more, and my eyes watched the number of viewers slowly tick higher and higher before I closed the window, and I felt even worse than before. Okay, we can file a report tomorrow, just in case, but for now, go to sleep and stay the fuck away. I can't believe you even went there in the first place. I didn't have the energy to argue with her. Guilt plagued my whole body, drowning me. It was all I could feel. I told her good night, that I was sorry and that I loved her, before I hung up and made my way to the couch to sleep. Or try to sleep. It didn't feel right, even being in my bedroom or being anywhere near my computer. Not while that girl was still trapped and able to scream for help and able to talk at all. I know it could be fake, but was that really a risk I was willing to take? I looked up some Google searches over what was fake on the deep web and read multiple stories about staged webcam videos, which made me feel a little better. It didn't make the sick, guilty feeling go away though. It's safe to say that I didn't get much sleep. Every time I closed my eyes or even began to drift off, I would see the woman's face, the thread laced into her lips, and the blood staining her mouth, her fingers, the floor. I continued to grow more and more anxious and uneasy, deciding that maybe getting out of the house, heading over to the local CVS and picking up some melatonin might help. I threw my blanket off, slid on my shoes, and grabbed my keys and wallet from the nightstand. The cool air felt amazing and did wonders to calm the whirlwind of thoughts in my head. I went to check the time, realizing I'd left my phone at home. Not a huge deal. The store was only a few minutes away from my house. I ended up buying melatonin and a stronger sleeping pill, just in case those didn't work. I also got a pack of bottled water to help rehydrate after I vomited up all the contents in my stomach earlier. By the time I got home, I felt much, much better, which lasted about 3 seconds before I noticed that my front door was wide open. Now, I may have been in a state of shock and panic, but I never ever leave my front door open or even unlocked. My heart immediately began to race. I got out of my car, closing the door quietly and unlocking my trunk, grabbing the crowbar that I kept in there. "Who's there?" I yelled into the house, waiting for any noise. "Who is in there?" My own voice was shaking and weak. I was met with complete silence, keeping the crowbar up and ready to strike. I walked to the couch and felt for my phone, and as soon as I found it, I hit the emergency and waited until I got a hold of a 911 operator, letting her know that I think my house was just broken into, and she told me police would be on their way. After checking around the house for anything odd, I decided to give my girlfriend a call, letting her know what had happened. The phone rang, and then rang some more. After getting her voicemail, I hung up, knowing she'd probably be asleep this late at night. I waited about 20 or so minutes for the police to show up and walk around with them like a scared puppy as they checked every single room. They ended up just having me fill out a report, telling me that they'll keep patrol cars in the area just in case anyone else gets hit. As they were leaving, I checked to see if Madeline had called back yet, but there wasn't any missed calls. I, however, did notice several outgoing calls to her phone. Outgoing call to Madeline, 3:12 a.m. Outgoing call to Madeline, 3:14 a.m. Outgoing call to Madeline, 3:17 a.m. Outgoing call to Madeline, 3:20 a.m. And then another one at 3:56, which was around the time that I'd gotten home. My mind went into an automatic panic, knowing for a fact that I did not make those calls. I quickly checked my text, reading one that I'd apparently set out at 3:23 a.m. "Hey, I can't sleep. Gonna come over. Mind leaving the back door unlocked so I can get in?" I didn't send that message. My stomach dropped. My heart thudded loudly in my chest as I noticed her reply directly underneath. "Sorry, I was sleeping. Thanks for waking me up, by the way. Lose your key again? It's unlocked. Don't be too late." Without a second thought, I jumped up, running to lock all the doors and windows in my house, keeping the crowbar tight in my hand as I ran to my car. I drove as fast as my little Civic would allow all the way to her house, ignoring any stoplights. And it only took me 3 minutes to get there, but I still knew it would be too late. I made my way to her back door, feeling every cell in my body burn when I saw it was wide open. My face was hot. My hands were shaking, but I stepped in, crowbar raised like a bat ready to swing, and I tried to keep my emotions at bay as I looked around her dark house. "Madeline?" I called out. "Are you okay, babe?" Nothing. Silence. "Madeline?" A small scream came from her bedroom, just up the stairs. My legs jerked to run as I flew up the stairs, slamming her door open. I looked at her empty bed, her empty room. Confused, I heard the scream again. Only this time, I heard that it was coming through her computer monitor. I felt numb as I looked at the screen, noticing the same website I saw earlier. Only instead of one woman, I saw two. The first was laying on the floor, not moving, in that puddle of dark liquid, and I recognized the second girl, and just as I had recognized her voice, my heart shattered as I saw her face, streaked in blood. The same threading was sewn into her eyelids, locking them shut. Her scream hit my bones, surrounded my body. It was all that I could hear, and her face was twisted in pure terror. I cried pathetically as her voice began to go out, continuing to grow weaker and rasp. I locked my jaw, picking up my cell and dialing 911 for the second time. Only this time, it barely rang once before the deep, gravelly voice of another man answered. "You should not have called." Chills shot down my body, and I heard the phone thud as it hit the carpeted floor. My breath hitched in my throat as I bent to pick it up, hanging up the call and racing down the stairs. How did he do that? How did he redirect my call away from the police? I felt my heart race as I darted out of her back door, in a frenzy as I sprinted to the closest house. I pounded the door, screaming at the top of my lungs until the neighbor opened it. Her face tired, confused, and scared. She let me in, and I explained through frantic tears what happened. I'm typing this on my phone to post as we both try to get a hold of the cops, but neither of our calls are going through, and neither is her landline. I think someone is messing with our cellular signal, and they may have cut her line, but we're going to keep trying. I'm scared for me. I'm scared for my girlfriend. I'm scared for my neighbor. I don't know what's going to happen to me. If you don't hear from me again, please take this advice and this experience to heart. Stay away from the deep web. For fuck's sake, please, please, stay away from the deep web. I sold myself on the deep web by you/Doomed Geek. What do you do when there is nothing else left? I was a college graduate who 2 years after collecting my certificate was still unemployed. There was a gaping blank on my resume, add to the fact that my debts were out of control, and it's fair to say that I was a mess and growing ever more desperate. So, what was I doing about this? How was I digging myself out of a hole? I was staying up all night trawling through the internet. Is there a point at which the internet does end and sanity begins? I neither knew nor cared. I watched thousands of clips, read conspiracy theories, and news reports until they blurred into one stream of hyperbole. I slept fitfully during the day and went back online the minute that I woke up. I would surf even though I needed to go to the bathroom until it hurt. I forgot to eat or drink, and soon, I had a permanent background headache. Like a lot of addicts, it was not long before I moved on to the harder stuff, the deep web. I was sickened by a lot of what I saw, but still immersed myself more and more. When I stumbled across the site that changed my life, it looked fairly innocuous at first. There was a simple hero image of the outline of a human body and a drop-down menu in the top right-hand side accessed via 3 short lines. For other people, it's one more bet, one more drink, and I clicked on one more link. I was surprised to see only 2 options, buyer and seller. I wasn't going to be buying anything real soon, so I followed the Warren marked. This sub-menu left me open-mouthed. It listed items that could be sold and gave the price the seller would receive. All I needed to do was add details for my preferred way to receive payment, then tick the box next to the item. The first item on the list was likeness. For the price shown, I could pay the 2 months I was overdue on my rent and buy wine and pizza every night for a week with what was left over. Now, I was not sure what was meant by likeness. Other items that I could sell via the website were more straightforward. Things like my social security number, my date of birth, even my name. A lot of these seemed like a way to commit fraud for the buyers. All very dubious, but at least I thought they were paying to use these details rather than simply stealing them. Or, as so often happened. Likeness seemed more ethereal though. I decided it meant the right to use my image, a photograph of my face. I also decided that I really wanted a beer and pizza and to be able to tell my landlord to get off my back because I have paid your damn rent. I added my details for the money transfer and ticked the box next to likeness and then pressed submit. A transaction processing symbol turned into transaction complete and a new box appeared giving me the option to comment. I typed, "Do you need me to send you my photograph?" Thinking this would answer my question about what exactly I had just sold. A moment later, the reply came. "We already have it." I flashed back to some of the things I had done in front of the computer screen, then decided that I would rather not think about it. Feeling nervous, sure, I was being scammed, about to kick myself for being so naive, and I checked my balance. What do you know? The money was in there. I went back to the good old innocent web and ordered the largest, most overloaded pizza that I could think of, then began to add sides. It took 2 weeks for me to blow the money from selling my likeness, and I had had a great time. Without leaving my apartment, I had paid no rent. And not to worry, I told myself, and returned to the deep web and my new favorite website. This time, I hovered over fingerprints. 30 seconds considering, flagged a dozen dodgy things this could lead to. But it was the money I would make that made me think. Whatever. I ticked and submitted. This time, 10 small boxes appeared on the screen with an instruction for me to place the ends of my fingers in them, which I did, and within seconds, the transaction was complete, and within minutes, I could see that I was once again flush. Problems over. I could pay my rent and enough off a credit card to make that bank back off. In the comment box, I typed, "Thank you." The reply was almost immediate. "You are welcome." Now, I don't know if anyone reading this is a gambler, but I guess if they are, they would not by now have put money on me spending the money wisely. And they would be right. This time, I told myself another couple of weeks later, I would get my act in gear. I spent significant time going through the items that I could sell and created a spreadsheet with how much I owed. So I knew the amount I needed to earn with this one final sale of part of me. I had decided, you see, that this had to be the last time. There was a relatively small number of things left that I could sell, that I was prepared to sell. My name, date of birth, and my social security number were still no-goes. I did not want to risk losing the ability to have a bank account and find employment. A history of being a disaster did not mean, in my mind, that I always would be. So one final sale it was, then clear my debts and find a job. I ticked the box next to sell body part, and from the next list, ticked kidney. I was close to hyperventilating when I pressed submit, close to tears not long afterwards. When I checked my balance, I felt huge pressure being lifted. With this money, I could finally get my life back on track. The comment box already had text in it. I had been too worked up to read it, so I took a deep breath and did. It was an 8-digit reference number, an address, and a time later that day, an appointment for me to have my kidney removed, I figured. I considered not going. I already had the money. So why bother? Then I thought back to the message telling me they already had my photograph. Whoever ran the website probably knew where I lived as well, or could easily find out. It was not rocket science to work out that they were probably bad people, criminals, some kind of gang, not people to cross or mess with. I felt sick as I left the apartment at the prospect of having an operation, but also elated at the amazing things lying ahead for me. I just needed to get this over with. The address turned out to be a nondescript building on the outskirts of town. The windows were all shuttered and there was no signage, just the human outline that I recognized from the website. A keypad was fixed into the wall next to a sturdy-looking door. Not sure what else to do, I entered my reference number, and the door slid open with a sigh. My stomach doing backflips, I stepped inside. I could hear the drone of an air conditioner, but still suddenly felt very hot. Nerves, I told myself, totally natural. I seemed to be in some kind of reception area, but it was deserted. Scratch that. A man appeared. He was wearing a white overall and a mask and safety glasses. He may or may not have been smiling when he said, "Welcome. Let's get you prepped." I followed him along a long corridor. The walls were blank, whitewashed, and the smell of antiseptic was growing stronger. Eventually, he turned off into a small windowless room. I hesitated on the threshold. There was a raised table, fluorescent strips overhead, a stack of equipment next to the bed. Medical, I guessed, though I had no idea. "Please." The man said and gestured that I should come in. I smiled weakly and did. He gave me a robe to put on and turned to do something to the equipment while I got changed. I assumed I needed to lie on the table, and when he looked around from whatever it was he had been doing and saw me, he said, "Good." Made me feel like a dog rolling over and playing dead, but I kept this to myself. I did though have some questions. "Is this safe?" I asked. "Perfectly," he replied without missing a beat. I wasn't sure. I felt hot to the point where I thought I was going to faint, and the lighting overhead was flickering, making paint start to flower above my eyes. "I'm not sure I want to go ahead with this," I said. "There is nothing to be concerned about," he replied, and before I realized what was happening, had nicked the skin of my neck with a needle. I immediately felt an unpleasant tingling sensation, and a numbness began to spread into my face. He picked up a tablet computer that was resting among the equipment and studied it for a moment before turning back to look at me and asking, "Now, which eye would you like to keep?" "What?" I exclaimed, or tried to, because my lips were numb and the word came out slurred. What are you talking about?" I managed. "I sold one of my kidneys, not my eyes." I did not wait for an answer. I was horrified. I decided I wanted out of there. I tried to sit up, but the numbness had spread to my spine and then my arms, and I was helpless to do anything but lie there and watch as he once more studied the tablet. No, he said in a quiet, relaxed voice. "The records show that you agreed to sell a body part, but did not specify which one." "I take kidney," I tried to say, but by now, my mouth would not move and I could not feel my tongue. I could feel my heart beating faster and faster, felt like I couldn't breathe. Cold sweat trickled down into my eyes, blurring my vision. I could see this. I could not feel it. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry out in terror, but my jaws were locked and my limbs were useless. All I could do was watch as the scalpel came into view and as he lowered it slowly towards my left eye. "It would all be over soon," he said, and then the blade became a shadow over my eye. a darkness that was soon all I could see. That was then, this is now. I am writing this in an internet cafe after trashing my laptop's hard drive and ditching it. There's just me in here and the owner. I think he would like me to leave from the dirty looks he is giving me. But before I head off, I have one more thing to do. I have enough money to buy a coach ticket and go a long way from here, away from everything and everyone that I have ever known. I have just logged on to the site and found what I am looking for in the seller menu. Name, date of birth, social security number. I tick sell on all three, enter the details in the boxes that pop up, press submit, and moments later, the money is in my account. I have been withdrawing as much cash I can daily, and after I go across the road to the ATM and withdraw the latest amount, I will snap my card in half and throw it away. This will be a fresh start, the past wiped clean, left behind. I'm going to stop writing now and go. It's time to log off for good and make my escape. Only, the screen has changed. The comment box has opened up, and a new message has appeared. We like and follow you. I feel tears begin to flow from the eye they did not take. I sold myself on the deep web by u/Drakenox. I am what you'd call a crypto addict. Before that though, I was someone who enjoyed browsing the deep web. I wasn't really looking for anything in particular, just curious as to whether or not the stories I had heard were true. And I never really found anything that creepy though, but it was my first encounter with Bitcoin. A few sites used it, and it was the first time that I'd ever heard of cryptocurrency. As such though, I had thought that it was a scam or something shady at that point. This was back in the years 2012 to 2014, so as you can imagine, I'm really kicking myself for thinking that and not buying a few coins. My interest in the deep web waned over time, but around the year 2017, I began reading about cryptocurrency and that oh so shady thing Bitcoin on mainstream news outlets. That's when I made a deeper dive into the world of crypto. My goal at the beginning was just to earn enough money to pay off my student loans. Of course, nothing was ever that easy. I had made nearly every single mistake you could make while buying crypto. Once, I lost my seed phrase. I've sent crypto to the wrong wallet by mistake. I've FOMO'd and sold at a loss countless times. Twice, I've been fooled by pump and dump schemes. Despite all of this, my net monetary change from buying into crypto has still been positive overall. That's mainly because I wised up over the years and made back the money I lost and then some. Of course, every time I hear about a random coin going up 20 times the price, I do wish I would have seen the opportunity. But I know most of those coins probably don't have much value or long-term prospects. I invest in safe projects, but of course, like almost anyone else, I've been on the lookout for the next big thing. You know, the next big project that's going to the moon, so to speak. I got an email from an old acquaintance of mine. Let's call him Frank. Frank and I went back to the days when I scoured the deep web, and the two of us would often exchange information regarding anything interesting that we'd found. I hadn't gotten a message from him in 2 years though, so I was kind of surprised. Hey, I know it's been a while, but I saw this weird thing and I think you'd want to check it out. I see from your profile that you've been in the crypto space for a while, right? What do you think about this? It's a site claiming to have made a new kind of coin. There was a link to a website. At first, I was really confused. This website was on the deep web, but according to this mail, was regarding a new crypto coin. When you made a new coin, one of the first things you wanted to do was get as many people in on the project as possible. Making all information about your new coin exclusive to the deep web was a guarantee that it would probably never take off. Then again, maybe they were making some sort of super secure coin which the government couldn't trace, so they kept it on the down low. Regardless, I decided to check out the link. The website was honestly nothing to write home about. It was decently organized, but was rather plain. It looked like a webpage from 2007. This was definitely the wrong thing to do if you wanted people to be interested in what you were doing or convincing them that you had a great new idea for something. There wasn't even too much information on the site about the coin itself, with most of it linking to a video they had made. There was a forum, but accessible only to members. Guessing there was nowhere else to go, I went ahead and clicked the video. It showed a dark room with a desk right in the middle. Someone walked in wearing a white mask and a dark hoodie. As he spoke, his voice was distorted, so he was clearly using a filter of some sort.
Greetings. Thank you for your interest in our new project, one by which we hope to revolutionize the very concept of cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. I have long since been a member of the crypto space, but I consider myself to be an environmentalist first. You must have already heard about the environmental impact that mining cryptocurrency has. Many people have spoken about that. As such, we wanted to look for a way to solve this problem. A solution quickly came to me, but it was a bit of an unorthodox one. You see, I am a man of many interests, and the occult was one of them. One thing I had always been told was that spirits, demons, what have you, they always know everything going on in the world. They don't follow the normal laws of physics either.
It was at this point that I began frowning. What on earth was this? Was this guy really talking about ghosts and spirits in a crypto video? I thought that it might be possible to use this to our advantage. You see, a spirit can theoretically solve a problem in an instant. Time works different for them, and the best part is the environmental impact is nil. I was about ready to turn this off at this point. What kept me going was a mild curiosity regarding where this guy was going. This had to be some sort of scam, right? But what was the scam? Was he going to ask for a donation first, or was he trying to install malware on my computer? I mean, he must have made this video for a reason, right? I just wanted to know what the scam was so I could tell Frank what it was.
I searched around in many books on the occult until I came upon them. They do have a name, but not one that you can speak freely in this tongue. Suffice it to say that certain supernatural creatures are willing to help us and mine our coin for us. Now, of course, you must be thinking that such a thing isn't worth your soul. Rest assured, though, that these creatures don't want our souls. Simply our bodies. I told them that in that case, they should buy us all a round of drinks first.
He chuckled at his own joke.
Anyway, the idea is simple. You, as a human, can rent out your body for a small portion of the day. In exchange, these creatures will mine coins for you. That's right. I managed to connect to the spirit realm with the internet so that they can mine cryptocurrency for us. Right now, we are starting out with mining Bitcoin, and by this method to test it out, but we'll release our own project very soon. I can say though that I am quite excited by the potential of our upcoming coin as it will be mined only by these entities. All information would be held not only on the internet, but within the spirit realm as well. So there's even if every database on Earth was wiped clean, we could recover the data. For now though, we are just seeing how easy it is to mine Bitcoin using this method. If you're interested in renting out yourself, you can go ahead and sign the contract given on our site. If you're interested in simply buying some of our own coins, when our new project will be released by conventional methods, please stay tuned for further updates. Thank you.
The video ended at that and I was left confused. Making this all would have taken some cash and some time, so was it all really just a hoax? How are they planning on making money out of this? With no further information available, I checked out their forums, but that was only open to people who had signed their contract for now. I took a look at this contract. It was needlessly long and annoyed me because I knew there was no way that a site like this could ever take anyone to court if the contract was violated. So, what was the point? The gist of the whole thing was that you would agree to rent out your body for a time ranging from 1 to 10 hours a day. In exchange, you would get a set amount of Bitcoin per day, with it increasing depending on how long you rented yourself out. Let's say you got X amount for an hour, but you'd get 20 times X for 10 hours. Clearly, it was designed for people to choose the maximum amount of time possible. Frustrated, I put down my selection as 1 hour and hit accept. A message popped up.
This contract will be valid for 1 year and cannot be cancelled before then. Are you sure you want to accept?
I scoffed at the idea of them trying to enforce this contract and hit the accept button. A congratulatory message popped up, as well as an address to a wallet that I could unlock. Disappointed, I browsed the site a bit more and saw nothing to explain what it really was. I could only chalk this all up to a very elaborate hoax. The next day, I went about my day as usual when something odd happened as I left my driveway. I found myself in my office an instant later. If I had been paying a bit more attention at that time, I would have noticed that I had lost exactly 1 hour. But I wasn't. I had zoned out while driving to work occasionally, but not when I was entering the building. So, I chalked it up to me just having a long daydream though. Things didn't worry me. Not yet, at least. Something similar happened the next day though, and I had some trouble noticing this as it happened when I was chilling around at home. And I just thought that I'd lost track of time as the sky suddenly became a lot darker. The third day though it happened at work, I was in a meeting, and then it was over and I was at my desk. On one hand, I was happy to be able to skip that meeting, but also, I knew that I was losing my mind. The MRIs all came back normal, and the doctors thought that I had dissociative identity disorder when a month later, I found myself in my house with some jewelry that I had no recollection of getting. I learned the next day that one of my neighbors had been mugged, but didn't know who it was. And that day, I suddenly found myself in a park with a shard of glass on my shoulder. I learned that someone had smashed another neighbor's car. Fed up with this, I installed cameras around the house to watch me. And that night, I saw myself leave the house and come back later with some cash. Cash I must have stolen. Yeah, I learned someone's house had been broken into the day after that. I finally put two and two together and went back to the website. I hadn't checked my wallet, but it had substantial amount of Bitcoin now. Clearly, this thing hadn't been a hoax. They wouldn't be paying me if they weren't getting something out of it. Whatever entity chose to inhabit my body started out by just mimicking what I normally did. But it was clearly getting more and more daring with the theft and vandalism it was doing. I read up that long contract again, and I saw no termination clause. I can't exactly communicate with this thing that takes control of me. And even if I could, I have a feeling that it doesn't want to leave. Forum posts on that site are of no help, as a few people seem to be in the same boat as me, but have no idea what to do. The site doesn't have a customer service section, to no surprise. And based on what I've read of the contract, the entity can't hurt me, or my property, or do a crime that would lead me to being arrested or the such. But it can do crime as long as it makes sure that I'm not caught later on. Anyway, I highly doubt it wants me to be arrested. It wouldn't have as much fun as when I'm free to roam around. In the end though, I realized that I couldn't live like this. There was nothing else to do but wait for my contract to expire, so I've moved to a very remote area where there are few people around. I'm glad for that, so that the thing can't harm anyone else. I've even had to give my dog away to my parents for the time being, as I don't know if she'd count as property. But I don't want that thing hurting her one day. I read on a forum post on that site of someone who found themselves with blood on their hands after a blackout, and that they were freaking out wondering whose it was. It's obviously much worse for those who rented out their bodies for several hours. I guess I should be thankful that I only agreed to an hour. I've quit my job and I only go out of town to get supplies when the hour is up. I thought about maybe tying up myself so I can get out, but I'd still need to do things like go to the bathroom, and that sounds like a terrible way to live. It's been 3 months total, and there are 9 left. The coins I keep getting are enough to pay my living expenses, thankfully. And I might have had to rent myself out for longer if that wasn't the case. I'm writing this because I was curious if there's a lawyer among you who might be willing to read over the contract I agreed to. If every contract has a loophole, I'd be happy if you could find one in this one. I can't go to a regular attorney, of course, given no one would believe me. I mean, where would I even go to dispute this? But if there's someone among you who is experienced with dealing with supernatural contracts, do please contact me. If possible, I would also prefer it if you could accept payments in Bitcoin. Hello everyone, it's your creepy sister here. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate each and every one of you. But I would also like to thank my amazing patrons, my top tippers, and my dearest channel members. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it with all of my heart. If you want to support the channel further, you could also choose to become a patron, a tipper, or a channel member. But remember, it's appreciated, but never a requirement. I would also like to announce that we have merch now. The link is in the description of the video, along with all my other social media links, like my Discord server, Twitter, Instagram, and others. You can connect with me and send your stories there. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and comments are highly appreciated. And remember, your fear feeds me.